11:16 is the time here in the WHIP studios. It's Zach Gelb and Mike Zahn here with you, rolling along until noon Eastern time, where the Temple Sports Hour will come your way. As we all know, last week Temple fell in Brooklyn by a score of 72-70 in the NCAA tournament to Iowa. And here to wrap up the season with us is Temple's very own Obi Enechionyia, who joins us in the studio right now. Ob, great to see you, and how are you?
You too. What's going on?
Nothing much. Good to be here as we sit here on a Thursday. And last week you guys went down in Brooklyn, and it was in devastating, heartbreaking fashion. We all know that, as you guys lose at the buzzer with Woodbury, had the tip in. How long does it take to move on from that loss, and what do you just take away from this season in general? Because you guys did end up back in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, after the game, I just tried to relax. The couple days after that, watched some games, just laid down, did some homework, tried to forget about it, really. But, after the season, it was like kind of thinking about the season and how it went. We made the tournament, which is we didn't do last year, so I felt like it was more of a success this year. So I was pretty proud of the team and what we were able to do, even though we went out in the first round. I was still proud of the seniors, proud of everyone, really. So.
We all know that games, when you lose, people will look at one play, but really it's a lot of possessions that factor into a loss. But everyone's going to look at that final play. Take us through that play where Woodbury pushes off and just what went through your mind during that whole sequence.
I remember Giselle, he was driving, and I went over to help. So I was under the basket, and he put a shot up, and, I think luckily for them, it didn't hit the rim. So it just came off right into him. I felt a push in my back, but I wasn't, I wasn't really thinking about it at the time. But, it was just, I probably could have stayed in boxed out a little bit better, and that probably would have helped. But, like you said, it's more than one play. That play happened, and a lot of people are going to look at it and say, that's the reason for the loss. But, there's, as a player, there's so many things that we can do throughout the entire game that, when you look back on the game, we always think about it as more than just one play. So.
And after the game, when we went on Twitter, people were irate about the loss. They couldn't believe it because they felt like they got robbed if you were a Temple supporter because the referee was looking at the basketball and not the play underneath the hoop. I'm sure you were able to watch the play after this point. It's just human instinct to take a look back at it, especially when everyone's saying some things. Do you expect that call to be made in the final seconds of the game? Because we know that sometimes referees do swallow the whistle down the stretch.
Yeah, we always expect the refs to make good calls, but obviously that doesn't always happen. But, I've always been told to not let the refs be able to decide the game. You have to, play the game and do things earlier in the game that will, give you a bigger lead so things like that don't happen. But, it happens.
We're talking to sophomore forward for the Temple men's basketball team in Obi Enechionyia. And Obi, just bring me back to Friday. You're seeing the March Madness decal on the floor. You're suited up. You're playing in the game. You're not just watching it on TV. You're playing in that game. Just bring me through all those emotions.
It was pretty exciting, Growing up, you just watch it on TV, and you're not really thinking about, at least for myself, I wasn't really thinking about, playing in March Madness at any time in the future. So, it was crazy. I would have kind of flashbacks when I showed up on Friday and just looked at the court and looked at the crowd and things like that. So, it was pretty surreal to finally be in that atmosphere.
If Obi Enechionyia is going to elevate his game in his junior year, what are one or two things he needs to work on to be the best player he can be in his junior season?
Definitely need to work on rebounding. I think that was probably one of my biggest weaknesses this year. Being 6'9", I probably average more than 4 rebounds a game. So that's definitely going to be one of my focuses when we play in the off season. Just getting stronger and along with that, scoring a little bit more inside. My 3-point shot was pretty successful this year, but not as successful as I want it to be. But I need to do a little bit more inside and score in the post.
And you really finished the year off strong. It was, I think in your last 15 games, you were in double figures, and I believe 12 out of those 15 games. And the start of the season, I know it wasn't the way that you would have wanted to play, but down the stretch in those final 15 games, just what adjustments did you make to get the best out of your game?
I think that was all mental. Just coming into every game with a certain mindset that To be honest, it was just the confidence that I couldn't be stopped, and I didn't really have that at the beginning of the season. And I worked on that throughout the season so I could get that mindset. But towards the end of the season, I was able to come into the game and be aggressive and confident every time I stepped on the floor.
And a reason why there was so much pressure, because people are excited about your potential, and people looked at you and say, hey, this could be the next great Temple player. And I believe a lot of people still do think that way. Just when there's so much pressure on you early in that season and you're trying to get comfortable on the court, and it's just nature that teams are going to go out there and adjust because they got to see a little bit more down the stretch. Just what are some things that you sit there to get into that comfortable state, and just really how do you operate from there to get yourself to play your best basketball?
That comes from watching film, just seeing my mistakes on film and being able to go into practice every day and try and correct the things that I do wrong. So, again, it's just, I think getting reps up in the gym, shooting a lot of shots, and just practicing a lot. I think confidence comes from that. The more you work on your game, the more confident you're going to be when you finally get on the court. So that just comes from working hard and watching film and things like that.
And also, you lose a guy like a Jesse Morgan, you lose Will Cummings. And I remember we were sitting in a press conference and you said you want to be the best shooter on this team. Mm-hmm. And I looked at you and I said, he's going to be the best shooter on this team? And I thought to myself, wow, he actually can. And I think down the stretch you were one of the better shooters on the team. Only a few times in the season you weren't, like when Devin Coleman was going off against SMU. But you're also a big guy. So how do you find that balance of the inside and outside game to get the best overall product on the court?
I think it's just getting on the court and just trying to be comfortable wherever. I've never wanted to be one-dimensional. So whenever I step on the court, I want to be able to play anywhere, regardless of whether it's on the perimeter, mid-range, or in the paint. So that just comes from practice. And I know a lot of people look at people my height and don't really expect them to shoot like that. But I think being able to shoot at that height, it can bring an advantage. Being able to take power forwards and centers away from the post and opening up the paint for my guards. So I think it's pretty important for to have a stretch four on a team.
So with you being a stretch four and you talk about comfort on the court, you've played with Will Cummings where he elevated his game his senior year. Quentin DeCozy, another guard, elevated his game senior year. We expect Josh Brown as a guard to elevate his game his senior season. Is it different playing with those guys, especially in maybe a pick and roll situation? Do they, so you look at a Josh Brown, he's a left-handed guy. Do you have to know that on the court and be cognizant of what's coming next?
I think with certain players, you have to know their tendencies and how they play. But Josh, I don't even think about him being left-handed at all because, he doesn't really have an issue with getting me the ball when I'm open. So I haven't really thought about that at all. I think all of our guards do a good job of penetrating and kicking it out to the open shooters. So, yeah, I haven't really, I think they all have that capability.
And no matter athlete or not, adjusting to college life is hard, I think, for everyone. It's a tough time in everyone's life. You're becoming 18, 19 years old. You come into this Temple program, and you were that only freshman coming in. So who really helped you get adjusted? And was it maybe a little hard at first because everyone else was older than you on the team and you couldn't share those freshman stories with any other freshmen?
Yeah, I thought about that a lot last year. As the season went on, it got easier, and everyone helped. We didn't really talk about how I was the only freshman, but being on a team with guys like last year and this year as well, it's just I don't think any freshmen have as much trouble adjusting because we're all here to help, and it wasn't really that tough for me to get adjusted.
The craziest part really about college is just how quickly it goes by. Like, I was a freshman 4 years ago. Now I sit here as an old senior, and it goes by so quickly. And you're even seeing this as you get ready for next basketball season. You're now a junior coming up in the fall. So just do you take on more of a leadership role for next year? And what do you try to teach some of those younger guys?
Yeah, I'm definitely have to be more of a leader. It's crazy thinking that I'm already a junior. I feel like I was just coming into Temple. It's crazy to think about being a junior. I'm definitely going to have to be more of a leader, like I said, stepping up for the freshmen, the sophomores, and being one of the players with more experience because I've played a lot in my 2 years. So, I'm definitely going to be there for all the freshmen that come in and kind of wide-eyed and don't really know what to expect. So I had to be there just like the seniors and the juniors were there for me.
You always told me that your first true love when it came to sports was soccer. How much do you still learn about the game of basketball now?
Do I still learn about it?
Yeah.
Every day. Every day is something new, especially with the coaches that we have. Coach McKee, he played at the highest level, so he's always there, telling us what to expect, just telling us different things that will help us throughout our careers, regardless of what level we play at. So I learned a lot from the coaches. Like I said, watching film, you see things that you don't really expect to see. When you're playing a game, it's a lot different than watching it. Being able to see the whole court and seeing, everyone play it and just watching film, I think I've learned a lot from that, which I never really did in high school.
A lot of college kids, they played multiple sports in high school. Is there anything that you take from soccer that helps you on the court with basketball?
The biggest thing is footwork. People ask me all the time, how much soccer helped me in basketball, and I think being able to move my feet kind of like a guard, that comes from soccer. My speed, a lot of that just comes from soccer and using my feet so much. I think it's important for people to play soccer as kids. I think my entire family plays soccer, and I think we all have similarities on the court because of it.
Easy for you to say. I can't play soccer. I'm too big. Come on. I'll play goalie. That's about it.
Well, you also mentioned about your family playing soccer. So was basketball the sport you were best at, and maybe your brothers were better at soccer? Or how did that work in the Enechionyia household?
I'd like to say I was the best. I probably wasn't the best soccer
All
player.
Around? The basketball and
soccer.
Okay, soccer.
I was the first one to quit and to move to basketball. So I think they saw that and they kind of followed up. But it was success for all of us. We're all Division I basketball players now. So, like I said, I think a lot of that has to do with soccer.
I just want to take you back real quickly to the Iowa game as Obi Enechionyia is in studio here with us, wrapping up with him. You had a three-point attempt in the left corner, and we were doing the game. I thought it was in. I still don't get how that shot did not fall. And really, this team all year has lived and died by the three-point shot. You couldn't get it going in that game up against Iowa as a team collectively. Why do you think was that? What did Iowa do well, or did it just come down to simple the fact that the shot just didn't fall that night?
It just didn't fall. I remember having some pretty open looks and shots that I usually would have knocked down in different games, but I think it just wasn't falling that day. So I don't think it was anything special that they did. I know that they were prepared for our shooters and they were adjusting and switching onto us. So they were doing that, but there were some open shots that I should have made.
Now, I know it's so early, but as we take a look to next season, as I know you guys will start preparing for next season sooner rather than later, first year, you guys got snubbed out of the tournament. You made the NIT. That motivated you guys. You went on a deep run to the Final Four in the NIT. The next year, you guys come out there, and you were able to take the conference by storm, beating every team. You guys come up a little bit short in the conference tournament, but you get back to the NCAA tournament. For you, what is the team goal being one of those upperclassmen for next year as you sit here early and take a look for next season?
This year, we wanted to get to the tournament. That was one of our main goals, and now that we've been there, I think next year we're going to raise the bar and try to make a deep run into the tournament and win the whole thing, really. Now that we've all tasted what the NCAA is like, it's a feeling that we want again. So, just watching the selection show and getting picked and having that feeling and all the things that go into that, I think we all really enjoyed that feeling and want to feel that again. So, playing in the tournament that's a big motivator in and of itself.
Well, Obi, we appreciate you coming in today. Thanks so much, and
Thank you.
best of luck next year and the rest of your Temple career.
Appreciate it.
There's Obi Enechionyia joining us in the studio. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Tom Hanslin for a WHIP Sports Update.